Friendly. I do all sorts of videos on my channel, from cooking videos to planner videos, vlogs, hauls, homeschool videos with a Disney twist, a little bit of everything. So if any of that sounds like fun to you, I hope that you'll subscribe and join me on my YouTube adventure. Today's video is a collab, and I'm actually hosting this one. This is my annual Treats for My Sweets collab, where I encourage everybody to make desserts or treats or even share gift ideas for their significant other, their kiddos, their co-workers, anybody special in your life that you'd like to honor and make feel extra special on Valentine's Day. And of course, because it's a collab, there's going to be a playlist. So when you look in the description box of this video, there's going to be a link. You can click that link once you're done watching this video and see what all of my friends made as their treats for their sweets. Now, the recipe I'm sharing with you guys today is something I'm very excited about for a lot of reasons. First of all, it is a chocolate dessert, which how could you go wrong with a chocolate dessert, period, but especially for Valentine's Day? It so happens that on January 23rd, which is just a couple days from now, it's National Pie Day. So in case you celebrate such a day and we're looking for a recipe, you're in the right place. And lastly, this recipe is something that holds a lot of nostalgia for me, because when I was a kid, we used to go to Denny's as a family for breakfast a lot. And usually my dad would buy an entire French silk pie. Before we left Denny's, he would bring it home and we would all eat it together, just kind of standing around the kitchen. And I still think that was the best dessert probably that existed in my whole life. Maybe it's because I'm remembering it with the mind of a kid, or maybe it was because of the nostalgia that surrounds it, but there was nothing like that Denny's French silk pie. And in case you haven't guessed it by all of that or by the title of this video, I am in fact showing you how to make French silk pie today. My version is extra special though, because I've made it entirely gluten and dairy free. Now you can make your own pie crust if you're feeling extra fancy, but I'm using a store-bought pie crust. Yes, they exist out there, gluten and dairy free. I'm gonna have the one I used linked down below in case you'd like to get it from Amazon or Whole Foods, which is the place that I've found them most frequently. But again, any pie crust will do, whether it's store-bought, homemade, gluten-free, not gluten-free, whatever suits you, that's what you should go ahead and use. This pie turned out absolutely scrumptious. It is quickly becoming a family favorite, and I can't wait for it to become your family's favorite too. Now, with all that being said, let's jump right into the recipe, shall we? Alrighty, pals, I cannot tell you how excited I am for this recipe, and I'm really hoping it works out, because I am so looking forward to this pie. So, very simple, not a whole lot of ingredients here. You are going to need your food processor or a blender. Now for this, you're going to need a prepared pie crust. If you are going to make it yourself, bless, by all means do that. I found these gluten-free pie shells. I have been finding these more and more easily lately. It used to be you can only get them at Whole Foods, but I actually got these at Sprouts. I believe they have them at Publix as well. So whatever pie shell you're going to use, if you're gluten-free, I cannot recommend these enough, but if you're not, you can use whatever pie shell you like. Just make sure you prepare it for a no-bake pie, however the directions say to. So every pie crust is going to have its own set of directions. For mine, it said to thaw the crusts for 10 to 20 minutes, so I've already gone and done that. And then it says to bake at 400 degrees, a preheated oven, 400 degrees, for 10 to 14 minutes until golden brown around the edges. So I'm going to err on the lower side of that. I'm going to bake mine for about 10 to 12 minutes, and then I'm going to set it aside to completely cool. That's probably going to be what takes the longest of this recipe, because even though you will have to wait about 5 or 6 hours to eat it, because it has to set in the fridge, the hands-on time should be overall less than 20 minutes. So once our pie shell is ready to go, you're going to need 9 ounces of dark chocolate chips, such as Enjoy Life. These are free from 14 allergens, including gluten, dairy, and soy, which are the ones that I'm concerned about. This is the only chocolate I ever use for cooking, baking, snacking, etc.
Now I have here semi-sweet, and I actually don't even have a whole bag. So I have some dark chocolate chips on the way right now. I just have this bag here basically just as a placeholder to show you the ingredients. But you're going to need 9 ounces, which the dark chocolate chip bag actually comes in 9 ounces. So you're going to want the whole bag. You need 13.5 ounces of unsweetened coconut milk, so I have my favorite brand right here. 1/4 cup to 1/3 of a cup of maple syrup. You're going to start with a 1/4 cup and then taste it, and if you feel like it needs a little more sweetness, you could add a little bit more. A 1/2 cup of mashed avocado, so that's about 1 medium ripe avocado, and this avocado is very much ready to go. A 1/2 to a full teaspoon of vanilla extract. Again, we're going to start with a 1/2. We're going to taste it at that point and decide if we want to add a little bit more. Although if you've watched me on my channel baking at all before, you know that I never ever measure my vanilla, and it's probably going to have way more than a teaspoon in it just to start. Lastly, we're going to have some coconut whipped cream to serve. So the way I remember eating French silk pie, there was a whole chocolate layer at the bottom and then a whole like whipped creamish type layer at the top. So that's how I'm planning to do it. However, since the ingredient list says that this is meant for serving, I'm going to wait until the very end to put this on so that the whole rest of the pie has the whole 5 hours to set up, and so that this does not potentially interfere with that. And only at the end will I put this on top, and I'm actually going to have these extra chocolate chips that I'm going to sprinkle over top of it as well, because I remember the pie from my youth having that look to it. So yeah, super simple, right? So I'm going to pre-bake my pie shell as directed, and once that's ready and completely cool, I don't want to risk the pie crust being hot and potentially melting my filling. I'm going to take a saucepan, and in that saucepan I'm going to melt my chocolate chips and my coconut milk together over medium-low heat. I'm going to whisk it the whole time until it's smooth because I don't want to risk the chocolate burning. And then I'm going to remove it from the heat and I'm going to allow it to cool for a few minutes. Honestly, I'm probably going to allow it to cool for like 10, 15, 20 minutes because again, this is a very simple recipe. I don't want to risk a silly mistake ruining it. Alright pals, Instacart came through with the dark chocolate morsels, and you can see that it is in fact 9 ounces. So I've got my can of unsweetened coconut milk right there, very thick. And we're going to take our entire bag of morsels. The recipe calls for dark chocolate, like I said, but you can use any chocolate really. And obviously you don't have to use this brand, but I'm using it because it's allergy friendly and it's yummy. So I'm going to put this on medium-low heat, and I'm just going to stir it until everything is melty and combined. Then we're going to set it aside for it to cool down just a bit before we introduce it to our other ingredients in our food processor. Alright pallies, so the time has come to start putting things into our food processor. Now the recipe says to put everything in here. The melted chocolate with the milk, our avocado, vanilla, and maple syrup. And to just combine it until it's all smooth. But because I want to make sure that the avocado does not leave any chunks behind, what I'm going to do, first of all, avocado appreciation. Look at that. Beautiful avocado. That's like perfect. That never happens. So I'm going to put the avocado in here first, and I'm going to give it a few pulses on high just on its own so that it has a little bit of a head start. If you saw me make my chickpea pumpkin blondies a few weeks ago, you would see that it turned out great, but I did wish that I had given the chickpeas a bit of a head start before I added everything else into the food processor, so I'm trying to avoid the same situation right now. I'm going to give these a little bit of a blend just on their own. And now that they've had their head start, I'm going to go ahead and put in a teaspoon of vanilla. I am in fact measuring it today. I know, what's wrong with me? But I want to be able to let you all know for science exactly what I did. so that if I have a great result, you can replicate it exactly, and so that if I don't, you know exactly where I went wrong. I'm also putting in my 1/3 of a cup of maple syrup. This is just pure dark maple syrup. And lastly, I'm gonna put in my chocolate and coconut milk mixture, which has cooled down some. So we don't want it too hot going into the food processor, but ideally it'll be just a little bit warm so that it helps bring everything together. All right, now we're just gonna blend this together. Whoops, got chocolate all over the front of the food processor, until it is completely combined. That's looking pretty good to me. So we're going to transfer our mixture now into our completely cooled pie tin. Let's use the same spatula that I used to get the chocolate out of the pan. That is pretty dang full. I remember the pies of my youth. It felt like there was like the full bottom half was chocolate and the full top half was the whipped topping. I don't know if we're gonna have space to double the layers like that, but don't you worry, we are certainly going to have our whipped topping on there. And we're also going to top that with some more chocolate chips. You could do chocolate shavings if you'd like instead. But right now I'm going to take this pie, I'm going to put it in my refrigerator for at least 5 hours. You can do it overnight as well. And once that's done, we're going to decorate it and it'll be ready to serve. Now before you serve it, you should let it thaw on the countertop for 10 to 15 minutes so that it comes a little closer to room temperature, and that will help to give it the silkiest possible texture.
5 hours later.
Alright friends, there you have it, my allergy-friendly, sweet, nostalgic, amazing, if I do say so myself, French silk pie. There's absolutely nothing that I would change about this recipe. However, if you are feeling like giving it a little bit of an extra zhuzh, if you want a little bit more chocolate, which I mean, who doesn't, right? It might be worth considering getting some gluten-free Oreos or regular, up to you, putting them in a food processor with a tiny bit of butter, again, vegan or otherwise, and making a pie crust out of the Oreos so that you'd have a chocolate crust instead of a typical crust. Now, in my understanding, French silk pie does just use a regular pie crust, but it's your dessert. Nobody's gonna tell you what to do, and if you want extra chocolate, you go for it. I want to remind you once again to go ahead and check out the playlist now that you've finished my video so you can get tons of other ideas and inspiration for Valentine's Day. And as always, I want to thank you all so much for being here and watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, I hope you'll please give it a big thumbs up. I'd also love it if you would subscribe and click that notification bell because I post at least 3 times a week and I wouldn't want you to miss a minute. Thanks so much again for watching. Bye!